Today I will show you how to create the marker collection system for our Find the Marker project. Let's create some markers. I'll use a collection of parts and models. So in the workspace, I'm just going to add in a part. And what I'll do is very quickly make one part and one model, and then I will very quickly duplicate them and put them around the map. So I'm just going to do one for each section just to keep it simple. And I've got no hiding spots. I've not spent time designing like caves and mountains to hide them in. But of course you will have hiding spots, as that is the whole point of the game. But this is my map, okay? So I'm just going to have one in each section. Feel free to have as many as you want, and obviously hide them. And in fact, what I'm going to do is, rather than using a part, I'm going to click this little arrow and insert a cylinder. And I will scale it up a little bit. I'll make it 8 tall, or 6 tall actually. Let me whack in an avatar and just see what size it is compared to the avatar. Yeah, I'll make it 6 tall. And I will colour it. First of all, let's anchor it. Colour it. I'll make it pink. And I will name this to pink marker. It's very important how you name this. So I'm going to name it pink space marker. Okay, so make sure Can Collide is enabled on it as well. And then I will go and add a decal actually. So I'm going to add a decal to this one. And I don't have any textures on me. So what I'll do is go to the toolbox and just find a face decal. There we go. And I'll whack this one on by Firefox's one. And I'll put that on the marker. Okay, it's not quite put it the way I wanted it, but that'll do. It's better than no decal. I just wanted to show you how it actually disappears. And now what we'll do is I'll create another one without a decal, and I'll put this one in the orange section. I'll remove the decal on this one. And what I'm going to do is make this one blue. And I'll rename this to blue marker. Obviously, you'll call these whatever you want. Now I'll make a model. So I'll duplicate the blue marker and we'll drag it over to the green section. I'm going to make this one red. I'm going to give it arms as well. So I'm going to add in a block part and just place it inside of the marker just here. And make it like that. So it's going to be like a T shape. Make sure it's the same colour. And now it's like a little T. It's like it's got arms. And now I'll grab both of these parts, right click, and group them as a model. And I will rename this to red marker. I'll do one more model, so I'll duplicate this one. And I will put it in the red section. I'll make this one yellow, so this will be our yellow marker. So I'll rename the group to yellow marker. And I'm going to add a decal to this one. So I'll put the decal on the actual marker part. And I will use the same decal we've got on the pink one. Doesn't look great, especially now that we've got the arms. So what I'll do is just make the arms a little bit thinner, just so the face isn't obstructed by it. There we go. And then I'll make 4 more, just so we cover every single section. And I'll get back to you once I've done that. Okay, so I've created some markers. And I've got a red marker, I've got a yellow marker with a decal, I've got a salmon marker, I've got a green marker, an orange marker, a purple marker, a pink marker with a decal, and a blue marker. So all my markers are just colours. Obviously, if you've got your own objects, they're going to look however, name however you want. But now we can move on. So I'm going to select every single marker. And again, you know what, I'm going to prove the point. So what I'm going to do is put a couple of these markers in a group. And I will name these group of markers. Just to prove that these can be anywhere. So I'm going to set the 3 markers in this group of markers. And I'm going to select all the markers outside of that group. So now I should have every single marker selected, including the ones in this group. Make sure, don't select the group, but select all the markers in the group, and then all the ones outside of it as well. And now what I'm going to do is, in the properties, it will say 8 items, or however many you have, however many markers you've got. Scroll down to tags, click add, and we're going to add the marker tag. Now make sure this marker is spelt the exact same as you've spelt it in this leader stat script on line 19. Now, if we hit play, you'll see all the markers get added to this marker folder inside of the player. Now let's create the script that will handle the collision detection. So add a script to server script service. And I'm just going to name it marker handler. And in here, we need to start by getting some services. So we're going to need the collection service. So collection service is game:get service collection service. And this will allow us to get all the markers with the marker tag. And we're also going to need the players. So players equals game:get service players. The first thing we need to do is get all the markers in the game. To do that, we'll just say markers equals, and if you remember from our leader stat script, collection service :get tagged markers. Or just marker, sorry. Shouldn't be markers, because it needs to be the exact same as it is here and as it is in the tag. And if we want to be extra secure, we need to wait for everything to load in. Because this is a server script, it's not as important because it will load with the server. But just for absolute clarity, what I will do is just before here, I'll add in a wait, and we will just wait 1 second just for everything to load in. This isn't too important, but if you're finding that not all your markers are loading in, then maybe add this wait 1. Now we need to loop through every marker and add a touched event to it. So for underscore comma marker, in pairs markers do. The reason we're doing for underscore is because this is normally the index and marker is the object. We're not going to access the index, we're only going to use the object. We'll say if marker : is a, with an uppercase I, uppercase A, model, then. So if the marker is a model and not a part, then we need to loop through every descendant of the model and add the touched event to every single descendant. So for underscore, we can't use underscore again because we've used it up here. So it will just become a bit confusing. So we use 2 underscores, comma descendant, in pairs, marker, :get descendants, do. Now the reason we use get descendants is because this will get every single child and the children of the children inside of the marker. So if we just get our marker, pink marker here, if we do : get children, we'll just get the decal. If we did the salmon marker and did get children, we'd get these 2, which is all we need. But if we had parts inside of parts, for example, if I had a part in a part in a part, get children would just get the blue marker and this top part. Get descendants will get absolutely everything. Yeah, just delete those now. And then we'll check that the descendant's actually a part, because we can only add a touched event to a base part. So if descendant : is a base part, then descendant dot touched :connect. And I'll leave that blank for now. We are going to connect a function to the touch event, but we'll come back to it in a second. Now, in this if marker is a model, I'll just backspace this and add an else. And if it's not a model, then we're just going to add a touch event because it means it's a part. So if it's not a model, it will just be a part. So we'll say marker dot touched :connect, again leaving this bit blank. Now let's create a function which we'll call, which will actually sort the touch handling. So we'll say function touch event hit, and we'll get the player. So local player equals players : get player from character hit.parent. Now hit is automatically passed through whenever we use :connect, and all hit does is it's the object that touched the part. For example, if the player walks into the part, their right arm, their left arm, their right leg, their left leg, for example, will touch the part. It won't be the actual player's character. It'll be the specific part inside of the player's character that touched the part that we've got the touch event on. So we can use hit.parent to get the player's character and then get the player from their character using the get player from character function on players. And now we can check that the player exists. So if player then, because the touch event is called if any part touches another part. So if the base plate is touching the part, this will still be called. So by just checking that it's the player, we're verifying that it's the player that touched the part. Because then what I'll do is just say print touched. And we'll actually get onto the whole touching the part and collecting it in it shortly. Now let's test it. So let's hit test and play. And we've got some errors here. Let's have a look. So attempt to connect failed. And the reason for that is because we've not actually passed a function to the connect here. We need to connect a function to this. So just pass in touch event. Don't add the parentheses afterwards like this, because that is no good. That's kind of trying to call the function rather than connecting it, and it will not work. So remove the parentheses. It knows that it's calling touch event, and what's happening is when touched is fired, hit is passed through. We're calling this touch event. It realizes that touch event takes a parameter hit, and we're like, oh, hang on a minute, that matches up to the hit that we're trying to pass through, so it'll automatically pass it through for us. Now let's play. Okay. Just delete that warning. And it says 0 found. And what we can do is if we walk over and touch a marker, it says touched. And then we can do it with this marker over here, which I've not anchored properly, so I just need to do that. And again, it's saying touched. So I'll stop that. Just make sure all my markers are anchored. Next, we need to make the marker disappear for just the player. If we attempt to do this in the market handler script, the marker will disappear for all players as it's a server script. So we need to use a remote event to run code on the client. For more information on remote events, check out my video on them, which I'll leave linked in the description. So let's add a remote event to replicated storage and rename it to hide markers. Just something appropriate. Actually, I'll rename it to hide marker, and then what we'll do is next we need to add a local script to start our player scripts. This is a local script that goes inside of the player, and it will run code on the client. And this I'll rename to hide markers. So first, let's get services, as always. So we need the players service. So players is game::get service players. And the reason we need that is to get the player. So player equals players.local player. Next, we need replicated storage. So replicated storage equals game::get service replicated storage. Not start storage, sorry, replicated storage. And the reason we need that is to access the hide marker remote event. So hide marker RE, short for remote event, is replicated storage, wait for child, hide marker. So the local player accesses the player on the client, and wait for child waits for this hide marker remote event to exist. Again, more information in my remote event video. So let's create a function that will hide the marker. So function hide marker, and we're going to take a part as a parameter, and this part will be the part we need to hide. So we'll say part.canCollide equals false, and this will stop us colliding with the part once we've collected it. And then we'll say part.transparency equals 1, and this will make it invisible. Next, let's get hide marker remote event on client event :connect function, and in here we're going to call a function when the hide marker remote event is fired, and we're going to take a marker. We're going to take the marker that we want to hide. So we're going to do the same check. If the marker's a model, then we'll loop through every descendant, and if the descendant's a base part, then we'll hide that part. And if it's a decal, we're going to destroy it. Because I know in the old series, a lot of people added decals to their parts, and then they had problems trying to hide the decals. So we'll say if marker, is a model, then the underscore comma descendant in I pairs, marker, get descendants, do. If descendant, is a base part, then hide marker, passing in the descendant that we want to hide. Else if descendant, is a decal, then, so descendant, destroy. And this will destroy the decal just for the player if there's a decal. Because we can't hide a decal, we have to destroy it. And now on this first if statement here, the if marker is a model, I'll add an else. So if it's not a model and it's just a part, then we'll just call the hide marker function, passing in the marker. And finally, we need to destroy the decal if it has one. So to do that, I'll check if the marker has children, and if it does have children, then we're going to loop through each child, and if the child is a decal, we will destroy it. If the number of marker : get children, so to get the number of, we'll just use a hashtag. If this is greater than 0, then there's children. So we'll loop through every child. Again, you could do descendant. So what I'll do is loop through every descendant, and I'll just copy this code up here. So for underscore comma descendant in iPairs, marker : get descendants. If descendant is a base part, then we're going to hide that descendant. Otherwise, if it's a decal, we're going to destroy it. Now we've got 2 chunks of repeated code here, so we can optimize this. How can we optimize it? Well, let's put it in a function. So I'll add a function, and this will be loop descendants. And we'll copy all of this code, these if statements here and the for loop, and paste it in here. And now what we can do is call loop descendants, and it needs a marker. So I'll put the marker in there, and we'll just pass the marker through here. Same thing here, so we'll get this for loop and replace this with loop descendants, passing in the marker. And now we've got 2 functions, so this one just loops through stuff, and then it will hide the marker. It just makes it a little bit nicer. Now we can go back to the marker handler script, and let's actually call this remote event. So let's add the replicated storage service. So replicated storage equals game : get service replicated storage, and get the hide marker remote event. So hide marker remote event equals replicated storage : wait for child hide marker. Now in our touch event, rather than printing touch, we need to get the markers folder from the player, because we want to set the value of the marker we've touched to true. So when we do the saving and loading, we know which markers have been found. We also want to increase the number of markers found and fire the hide marker remote event. So we get local markers equals player : wait for child markers. So this gets the markers folder in the player. And then we'll get the marker value, which will be local marker value equals markers : wait for child marker.name. Now we also need to pass the marker into this touch event, because we're going to use the name of the marker to find the specific value that we want to set to true in the player's markers folder. And we can say if marker value dot value is equal to false, then. And we want to check that it's false before we run the code, because we only want to collect it once. Once we've collected it, the marker value will be true. And if it's true, we don't want to keep collecting it. Otherwise, we're going to keep increasing the found amount. And suddenly we're going to have 100 markers found by only touching 1 marker. The first thing we'll do is set marker value dot value to true. Then we'll get our found. So local found is player : wait for child leader stats : wait for child found. And then we'll just say found.value plus equals 1. And make sure this found in this wait for child is spelt the exact same as you've spelt it in the leader stats script. Otherwise it will wait forever to find it, and it never will. And then finally we can fire the client. So hide marker remote event : fire client, passing in the player, the client that we want to fire it on, and the marker. In these loops here, in the touch event, we are going to have to now add a new function, because we need to pass a parameter in, and we can't do that without using a function, a new function. So I'll just do function hit, touch event, hit, marker, end, like this. And this will assign a new function to the touch event that fires the touch event function, passing in hit and marker, and then it ends it. A little bit confusing, but imagine it, you can actually kind of imagine it like this. This is the exact same. So you can clearly see now it's taking hit as a parameter, calling the touch event function, passing in the parameter hit and marker as an argument as well. But I've just condensed it into one line just to make it a little bit nicer on the eye. Again, we'll do the same thing here. So function hit, touch event, passing through hit and marker, and end. Just like this. Now let's test it. So I'll close all of these scripts for now, clear the output, hit test and play. We get this warning. I need to look into this because I've updated my Roblox studio and suddenly I'm getting loads of warnings. So I need to look into those, but it's not important right now. So let's go over to this pink one here and I'll open up the markers, find my pink marker. The value is false. When I touch it, I'm expecting the marker to disappear, found to increase to 1 and only 1, the decal to disappear, and the value to go to true. Okay, so the decal's disappeared, the marker's gone, found is 1, and the value's true. Now let's try this red marker over here. Because this one's a model, it'll be a bit more interesting. I'm going to touch it, I'm expecting everything to disappear, and my found to go to 2, and this to go to true. That goes to true, found goes to 2, it all disappears, everything is good. Now there's one more I want to test, and that is there is somewhere here we go, a model with a decal. So this is the yellow marker, so when I touch this, the decal should disappear, all the parts should disappear, found should go to 3, and value should go to true. So the decal disappears, all the parts disappear, found goes to 3, and the value gets set to true. So that is working well. So that is all for this video. I have one more feature I want to implement before we move on to saving and loading data. I want to create a pop-up of the marker on the screen when the player collects it. We'll implement this in the next video though, as this one is getting long now. So check out our Discord server, which you can find the link to in the description, where we're trying to build a community of future game developers. So thanks for watching and goodbye.